What's happening, guys? It's Mike's Little Dragon Channel, and tonight I thought I would take a look at the second issue of the New History of DC Universe. This is DC's latest attempt to put their universe and the events and the first appearances into some sort of rough time frame of how everything happened and how everything came about. Mark Waid is helming this project. He's the one that's writing it, and as I've said before, I can't think of a better person to be doing this type of project. This is the second issue, and this is a gatefold cover right here, which is you have like a really big collage, or not collage, I guess you would say, but a really big composite shot of all. This looks to be the Silver Age DC universe. Um, so you've got a real big, massive double size cover. A million people crammed in here. You've got everybody running from where, everybody ranging from, you've got Atomic Knights, the Demon, Baron von Wunderbar from the Fourth World, Jack Kirby stuff, Orion, Calabac, Kirby, and then you've got other people. You've got Supergirl on Streaky, you've got Enemy Ace, um, Negative Man, Green Lantern, Superboy, Duo Damsel, or Triplicate Girl if you include Part 3 right here. So you've got people from all across the Silver Age DC um, time frame. It would be cool. I wonder how many of these people I actually can name. I'm sure I could get quite a few. I wonder. There probably is a key or a legend for who's who for all these characters, about which, with all their names and stuff attached to them. Because some of them, quite a few, I recognize, but there's a handful that even I don't know who it is. Like, I don't know who these two twins are right here. Um, I don't know who this little baby is right here besides Sugar and Spice. You know, um, Actually, that's Supergirl, and Comet is the Super Horse. That's Streaky, the Super Cat, right there. But a lot of these are there's Jeb Stewart's Haunted Tank right there. Challengers of the Unknown. But we'll have to see when we get to the end if there's some sort of key of showing who is who. There's a Red Bee right here. They split him in half. The Red Bee. Looks like Vandal Savage is right there. But I have not looked at this yet. I just picked it up yesterday, and I figure just like how the first one I read, I feel like I should probably just keep it going. It was really fun to read that first issue, um, and kind of put my thoughts out there about how it went as I read. So when the last issue left off, they were just starting. They had wrapped up the Golden Age, and they were introducing the Silver Age, the age of superheroes, which your first appearances of Superman, Batman, Barry Allen, Flash. So all that was coming about at the end as they wrapped up the first issue, and that's where this issue is starting at. So we have here, like I said, Barry Allen's the one who's writing all this down, as we see like this little panel right here, Barry on his laptop dictating all this type of stuff. Rumors of a superpowered teenager from Smallville, Kansas, blossomed in time into full-fledged sightings of the unofficial harbinger of the new age of heroes, Superman. Later disguised as Daily Planet reporter Clark Kent, he became the champion of Metropolis and the world beyond, befriending Planet staffers Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and editor Perry White. Simultaneously, billionaire Bruce Wayne set out to avenge the death of his parents as the Batman, shadowy protector of Gotham City. Early on, his sole allies were Wayne's butler, Alfred Pennyworth, and Gotham police level Gotham Police Lieutenant James Gordon, those would soon change. I said before I don't particularly enjoy the origin, Superman's origin as being he started off as Superboy and had public adventures. I don't mind having, mysterious miracles, him doing and participating in, saving people anonymously, etc., etc. I don't mind that. But putting on the cape and having a full-fledged Superboy identity, that's not really my preferred part of Superman's lore, his origins, or however you want to phrase it. I'm more of I like the mindset. I like the story of Superman acting anonymously as a kid in Smallville. You know, um, headlines saying miracle toddler survives tornado, and Superman having been the one that saved him. I like that. And then only when Superman comes to Metropolis does he debut his identity. That's my preferred one. We see here, we see like a brief like a uh, little small drawing here of the guy who robbed Martha and Thomas Wayne. We see him, and one of the things that I found out is that whole concept of the pearls getting pulled off, and you see the pearls flying from the pearls necklace off of Martha's neck. Frank Miller created that. That did not exist until Frank Miller came along, and it was such a powerful image that we now see it in basically every retelling of Batman's origin. Not long after a Themyscirian child born of clay and endowed with godly powers arrived on America's shores, adopting the alias her mother had used during World War II, Princess Diana became the new Wonder Woman. A wave of new crime fighters promptly followed. A shower of electrified chemicals connected me, Central City Police scientist Barry Allen, to an extra-dimensional energy field called the Speed Force. As the fastest man alive, I, in honor of my childhood idol, took the name The Flash. Lost on a remote desert island, billionaire Oliver Queen honored his hobbyist archery skill. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. Lost on a remote desert island, billionaire Oliver Queen honed his hobbyist archer skills into a survival tool. On returning to Star City, Queen further polished those talents to an almost inhuman level as the Green Arrow. Arthur Curry, son of a lighthouse keeper and an Atlantean queen, found he could exist both on land and underwater. Born with the telepathic ability to communicate with all sea life, he began protecting the oceans as Aquaman. After thrill seekers Rocky Davis, Red Ryan, Professor Walter Haley, and Ace Morgan miraculously escaped a plane crash, they decided they were living on borrowed time and became the challengers of the unknown. Death cheaters dedicated to exploring the world's most dangerous phenomenon. These new adventurers weren't all bound to our world. Test pilot Hal Jordan, selected for his honesty and ability to overcome great fear, became this space sector's next Green Lantern, while archaeologist Adam Strange, via the teleportational Zeta Beam, divided his time between Earth and the distant planet Rann, defending his second home from all manner of alien menaces. Yeah, these are probably my preferred origins for all these characters right here. I like to take it at face value, all the classic origins, not a lot of them the way they've kind of modded or kind of added details to it later on. We learned early on, however, that wherever there is light, there is darkness. Practically as soon as there were new heroes, there were new villains. Batman quickly found himself up against Joker, Clown Prince of Crime, the Jewel Thief Catwoman, Mob Financer the Penguin, Two-Face, whose atrocities were determined by the flip of a coin, The Riddler, obsessed with leaving clues to his crimes, and the shape-shifting Clayface. Superman ran afoul of his own set of enemies, among them the brilliant scientist and businessman Lex Luthor, Brainiac, an Evo xenologist from beyond the stars, Metallo, whose heart of kryptonite was deadly to the Man of Steel, the murderous Toyman, and Mr. Mxyzptlk, a magical imp from the fifth dimension. Before long, I too had accumulated a formidable rogues gallery: Captain Cold, Mirror Master, Grodd the Super Gorilla, the Trickster, Weather Wizard, Heatwave, Captain Boomerang, and others. They were by and large thieves rather than world beaters, but that didn't make them any less dangerous. Yeah, that's what I like about the Rogues Gallery. They just want to rob banks. That's all they want to do. They just want to rob banks. Maybe steal some jewels, have something for ransom, and just get money. Luckily, we didn't have to fight them alone. Batman was the first to take in a partner, a young circus heiress whose parents had also been murdered by criminals. Clad in a bulletproof yellow cape, he called himself Robin. My girlfriend, Iris West's nephew, Wally, was the Flash's biggest fan. Once a freak accident connected Wally to the Speed Force, he became Kid Flash, the happiest and most eager assistant imaginable. Aquaman's partner, Garth, was an Atlantean child who had been unjustly exiled after being deemed a genetic throwback by superstitious ocean dwellers. Appalled by this barbarity, Arthur informally adopted the boy and named him Aqualad. After Roy Harper's Forest Ranger parents died in a fire, he was adopted by a Navajo tribe. When the tribal leader was killed under mysterious circumstances, Roy brought the killer to justice with the help of Green Arrow, who took him in and gave him the name Speedy. This looks like more Allard artwork right here. This is Allard artwork, and both these pages are. Aware of the sudden emergence of so many defenders of humanity, Darkseid of Apocalypse elected to take the Earth before our numbers grew any larger. He thought it would be a simple conquest, but he learned differently once a group of us gathered to repel him and his army of parademons. Joining us in this battle was Victor Stone, a high school athlete whose body had been ravaged as an unintended consequence of Darkseid's initial strike. Vic's father replaced as much of his flesh and bone as he could, turning him into a cyborg. Following the battle, Cyborg was placed in suspended animation for further healing, but others stepped up in his stead. So I saw a lot of discussion about this right here on social media. People were saying that they had incorporated the New 52 Justice League origin, and they included Cyborg, but took Cyborg out of the equation. So basically what they said is Cyborg was a founding member of the Justice League for that battle, and then was put in suspended animation. So they included him, but just as soon as they put him in, they took him out, which is kind of weird. The Justice League wasn't formalized as a team until a subsequent alien invasion from the planet Apalax caused John Johns, aka Martian Manhunter, to step into the limelight and brought Diana Lance, the Black Canary, into play when she assumed the costume identity of her mother. Joining the League later was Green Arrow and Detective Ralph Dibny, the elongated man, my friend, and the first among us to make his secret identity public. Physicist Ray Palmer, the Atom who could shrink to a microscopic size, and the Winged Warriors Hawkman and Hawkgirl, later Hawkwoman, in their latest incarnations. Now they have included, it seems like they include the New 52 origin and the original Silver Age origin. Looks like DC wants their cake and eat it too. Justice League. Had we known how to find the long-retired Justice Society, we would have asked for their blessing. But it wasn't until I was stymied by a trio of the original Flash's old enemies that Jay Garrick reappeared after more than a decade. Though Jay was the first elder statesman to resurface, it wasn't long until the entire society came out of retirement to help the League fight the crime champions. Realizing they still had much to offer the modern Realizing they still had much to offer the modern world, the JSA stayed active, teaming with the League whenever a menace came along, too powerful for either team to defeat alone. Plenty of younger heroes were getting in on the action too. A second survivor of Krypton's destruction, Kara Zor-El, had been rocketed to Earth to look after her infant cousin, only to be caught in a time warp. Kara arrived years later to find that child had grown up to become Superman, who helped her adjust to a new life as Supergirl. After circumstances threw Robin, Kid Flash, Speedy, and Aqualad together to defend a small town, they elected to remain a team, along with other members: Mal Duncan as the second Guardian, Karen Beecher, aka Bumblebee, Lilith Clay, Cave Boy Gorok, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, and Wonder Woman's adopted sister, Wonder Girl. They became the Teen Titans. The seeds of the Superman Project Phase 1 began to bear fruit. Though all the scientists recruited in time severed official connections with the government, Dr. Will Magnus nonetheless developed the Metal Man, autonomous robots powered by Magnus's responsometers and programmed with the abilities of their respective elements. Dr. Niles Calder engineered unfortunate accidents that created Elastigirl, Negative Man, and Robot Man, aka the Doom Patrol. And Simon Stagg sent his daughter's boyfriend, adventurer Rex Mason, to explore an Egyptian tomb to retrieve the mysterious Orb of Ra. While there, Mason was exposed to an ancient meteor that scrambled the chemicals in his body and gave him complete control over their properties, becoming Metamorpho, the Element Man. I have the first appearance of Metamorpho and first Doom Patrol. I would really like to get first Metal Man as well. I always say that I'm going to pick it up, but I never get around to picking it up. Heroes of Magic began intermingling with heroes of science. Zatara's daughter, Zatanna, inherited her father's power to cast spells by speaking her commands backwards, while solar engineer Bruce Gordon became the host of the dark god Eclipso and often turned to other heroes to help control the evil within him. Mobster Patrick Eel O'Brien was accidentally doused with chemicals that allowed him to stretch and transform his body into any shape imaginable. Abandoning his former life of crime, O'Brien turned over a new leaf as Plastic Man. Future Hollywood stuntman Bernard Buddy Baker was exposed to alien radiation that connected him to the morphogenetic field called the Red, which allowed him to mimic the abilities of any nearby animal. Appropriately, he adopted the name Animal Man. Now, this origin that they mentioned for Animal Man is like a combination of his Silver Age origin and his New 52 origin. Of all the Leaguers, it was probably Aquaman's life that was changed the most rapidly. Not long after he met Mera, Crown Princess of the undersea nation of Zebiel, the two had a son, Arthur Jr. Originally destined to inherit his late mother's position, Aquaman instead turned the ruling of Atlantis over to his half-brother Orm, the Ocean Master. But when Orm launched an attack on the surface world, Aquaman dethroned him and assumed his rightful heritage as king. In the interim, super criminals were quickly bolstering their own ranks. Not for the last time, for instance, the JSA team battled an alternate Earth version of the League called the Crime Syndicate, who came from a world upon which evil thrived. Wonder Woman began to accumulate a gallery of arch enemies as well, including Silver Swan, Giganta, Angleman, the illusion-casting Dr. Psycho, and the new Cheetah. Superman met the power-draining Parasite, as well as Bizarro, an imperfect duplicate with a crude, backward mentality. Batman and Robin did battle with Deadshot, Poison Ivy, and Mr. Freeze, and Green Lantern faced off against his former mentor Sinestro, a lantern who had gone rogue and now served the cause of tyranny. Not all heroes have powers, of course. Industrialist Ted Kord inherited the mantle though not the abilities, of the original Blue Beetle, and kept the streets of Chicago safe with his inventive genius. Barbara Gordon, daughter of Gotham's new police commissioner, was inspired by the Cape Crusader to create the guise of Batgirl. An investigative newsman, Vic Sage, a moral absolutist who saw the world in strict black and white terms, baffled evil as the question. Others owed their existence to supernatural forces. Eve Eden, aka Nightshade, could cast darkness and travel through shadows thanks to powers handed down from her mother, queen of an extra dimensional realm. I always see so many people who want to get into Question because they like the character on the Justice League cartoon, but the Question on the Justice League cartoon is so vastly different than the one that's in the comics that they're not even really the same character. The Question in the comic books is very much into like meditation and I guess you would call it far east schools of thought. The spirit of the slain Boston Brand, a daredevil trapeze artist who billed himself as Deadman, was chosen by the goddess Ramakushna to linger on Earth and balance injustice by inhabiting the bodies of others. Brothers Hank and Don Hall were tapped by the Lords of Order and Chaos as their respective embodiments transformed in the presence of evil into Hulk, who labeled his fists, and Dove, who sought non-violent resolutions. The Creeper, on the other hand, wasn't divinely endowed, he was just weird. A special serum and device allowed outspoken talk radio host Jack Ryder to become a wild and unbridled menace to the underworld. Teenager Robbie Reed was just as unpredictable in his way. Each time he dialed the translated letters hero on an alien device, he transformed into a random superhero, some effective, some ludicrous, but all on the side of right. A fun fact about Dial H for Hero is a lot of these heroes, the alter egos he turned into, were fan creations. You wouldn't see that nowadays. somebody would be wanting a piece of one of the characters that appeared. By that time, the Justice League had undergone some significant changes to its membership. Wonder Woman was temporarily forced to surrender her powers, but not her crusade for peace. The team abandoned its cavern HQ for a more modern satellite headquarters, and the whirlwind android Red Tornado joined its ranks. Following Darkseid's initial invasion, new gods such as Mr. Miracle, the Forever People, and Orion took a greater hand in thwarting Darkseid's quest for the coveted anti-life equation, its secrets hidden on our world. Darkseid's influence was felt here nonetheless. He equipped the Metropolis mobsters of Intergang with futuristic weaponry, then mirroring the genetic engineering efforts of Project Catamus run by Dublix and defended by a clone of the original Guardian. He commanded his underlings, Mokari and Simeon, to create a cloning factory nicknamed the Evil Factory. Another Metropolis-based criminal organization, the 100, fell into the crosshairs of a woman plagued with dissociative identity disorder, Rose Forrest, or rather Thorn, an alternate personality that emerged each night. The League of Assassins continued under Ra's al Ghul, but his daughter Talia's loyalties were often threatened by her love for Batman. Their union would later produce a highly surprising outcome. The Parliament of Trees, preservers of the green, found a new Swamp Thing avatar when an explosion combined biochemist Alec Holland DNAs with the waters and the plants of the Louisiana Bayou. The protocols of the Guardians required each Green Lantern to have a designated backup in case of injury or death. On Earth, the official appointee was gym teacher Guy Gardner, who could not serve until much later due to an injury. Instead, military veteran and architect John Stewart was chosen, eventually becoming a full-time ring slinger in his own right. A protector of a different sort was Nubia, the last Amazon to reincarnate through the Well of Souls. The future queen of Themyscira was charged with guarding Doom's Doorway, a portal to Hades located beneath the island. Though American crime fighters like Batman had studied martial arts for years, a new wave of Eastern influence warriors were emerging. Richard Drakunovsky and Ben Turner, better known as Richard Dragon and the Bronze Tiger, were exceptional, but none was better than Sandra Wu San, Lady Shiva. Partial to firearms and swordplay instead was Travis Morgan, an Air Force pilot who inadvertently crossed a dimensional barrier and crash landed in the land of Scartarius. Morgan became the warlord of this sword and sorcery realm. Meanwhile, back on Earth proper, an international terrorist group called Cobra had begun spreading its influence, thwarted repeatedly, if barely, by the Justice League and others. Around this time, Gotham Metropolis gained two new defenders. Roy Reagan, Ragman, wore a magical suit that allowed him to absorb the souls of criminals and use their abilities, while Olympian and high school teacher Jefferson Pierce battled the 100 as Black Lightning. The circle of life, unfortunately, often demands deaths to balance births. Black Manta, Aquaman's arch-enemy, earned the Sea King's eternal hatred by murdering Arthur Jr. in an especially cruel act of depravity. Again, the U.S. government recruited scientists and visionaries to create new heroes under the Superman Project. Phase 2 was headed by the newly created Department of Metahuman Affairs. Those who survived their experiments and became heroes were Captain Atom, Firestorm, and Element Woman, while Killer Frost, Man-Bat, and Lady Clayface broke bad almost immediately. So they're kind of like retconning that Man-Bat was not created by Kurt Langstrom. It was Superman Project had a hand in it. Maury McCabe was a Zambianese American businesswoman and model who fought crime as Vixen with the aid of the Red as channeled through her Tanfu totem, which granted her the powers of the animal kingdom. Amy Winston discovered on her 13th birthday that she was actually Amethyst, lost princess of the magical gem world. And I don't know what to tell you about Erwin Schwab, aka Ambush Bug, other than he acts like what happens when you give Bugs Bunny a teleportation suit. Very accurate description. Long considered the Junior Justice League, the Teen Titans, following one of their periodic dissolutions, leveled up significantly by rebuilding alongside Starfire, a temperamental but kind princess from the planet Tamarian, and Rachel Roth, Raven, a supernatural empath who could release a powerful shadowy soul self. They were joined by Garfield Logan, the former Doom Patrol ally Beast Boy, initially used the codename Changeling, and a revived and revitalized Cyborg, at last a full and complete combination of man and machine in search of friends sympathetic to his current condition. Some of the new Titans' earliest enemies were the demon Trigon, Raven's father, who returned to plague the team time and time again. Well, by putting Cyborg in suspended animation, they make him a founding member of the Titans. So Cyborg is a founding Justice League member and a founding member of the Teen Titans. Cult leader Brother Blood and Slade Wilson, codenamed Deathstroke, the world's deadliest assassin, who very nearly toppled the Titans by manipulating them into admitting his tapped the Titans by manipulating them into admitting his traitorous protege, Terra. Wally West, his speed gradually ebbing, retired as Kid Flash, while eager to escape the shadow of the Bat, Dick Grayson rechristened himself Nightwing, abandoning his Robin identity, which with Batman's guidance was quickly adopted by rough-edged street urchin Jason Todd. Urchin. That's a word I need to put in my vocabulary more often. Urchin. Judge Adrian Chase believed himself to be a good guy whose violent punishing the guilty as a vigilante, but his growing regret at abandoning the rule of law eventually and tragically led him to take his own life. Another anti-hero was Lobo, sole survivor of the planet Zarnia, an intergalactic bounty hunter. Well known by sometime allies to Omega Man, extraterrestrial freedom fighters in the Vega star system, which was bereft of a Green Lantern. Earthside, Earthside Batman broke from the Justice League to form his own team, the Outsiders. Alongside a couple of familiar faces, he enlisted Halo, Katana, and Terra's brother, Markovian Prince Brian Markov, Geoforce. Soon after the League very nearly disbanded, held together tenaciously by Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Elongated Man, and Zatanna. Relocating to Detroit, they brought aboard new members Vixen, Vibe, Gypsy, and Steel, grandson of the wartime fighter Commander Steel. Hollywood stuntman Dan Cassidy originally costumed himself as the happy-go-lucky Blue Devil, but after his defeat at the hands of the hellish Neron, Cassidy became a true demon. Nonetheless, he fought on the side of the Angels, as did the enigmatic Phantom Stranger, while occult detective John Constantine played no such favorites, preferring to use whatever magic necessary, white or black, to get the job done. Wow, occult detective John Constantine. Okay. Despite their friendship, the Justice Society never actually passed the torch to the Justice League. Instead, in a sense, it went to Infinity Incorporated, a team led by the Star Spangled Kid, who now called himself Skyman. The group initially brought together Jade and Obsidian, children of the original Green Lantern, Nuklon, later Atom Smasher, godson of the JSA's Atom, Silver Scarab, son of Hawkman and Hawkwoman, their godson Northwind, Fury, whose like-named mother was with the Young All-Stars, and Brainwave Jr., heroic offspring of one of the JSA's more formidable villains. At the time, our universe felt relatively stable. Heroes battled villains, good warred with evil, but there was always a sense that the power of hope would ultimately triumph. And then, arising from the cosmic void, came Perpetuo's son, the Anti-Monitor. Up until then, the multiverse had been a realm of wonder, a window into roads not taken. Now it became a battlefield. The Anti-Monitor and his shadow demons began unleashing waves of antimatter energy that annihilated entire parallel realities. With each extinction event, his brother and defender of the multiverse, the Monitor, was weakened. He could not stem the carnage on his own. With the aid of Harbinger and Pariah, the Monitor kept close track of the Anti-Monitor's path to destruction and brought together dozens and dozens of heroes from all surviving universes to act as an army against the ultimate evil. Finally coming to the end. Suffering defeat after defeat, we finally succeeded in ending the Anti-Monitor's mega genocide, but at an unimaginable cost. Trillions of lives had been extinguished as the multiverse was for the first time reduced to one single reality, retroactively removing in the very memory of a multiverse for most. And while we gained notable allies during the war, including scientist Kimio Hoshi, the new Dr. Light, so many others gave their lives in battle. Among them, Supergirl, whose loss was felt perhaps most profoundly. And as for me, well, in shattering the known limits of my speed to destroy one of the Anti-Monitor's deadliest weapons, I died. So that is the end of Book 2 of the New History of the DC Universe. And that's a hell of a last page and the last sentence to end it on. I died. But that is how Crisis on Infinite Earths ended. And then here's some more of the timeline right here that has the issues referenced. You know, the issues that are referenced from some of the events depicted inside what we just read. So much history here. Flash 123, first multiverse. Yeah, the DC universe definitely is the universe that has the most history to it. It's the longest existing comic book universe, and it's probably the most variety out of it. At least at one point, you had outer space, you had street level crime, you had pure superheroics, you had vigilantism, you had magic, you had war comics. Um, it had everything at one point, and that's all reflected here in the events that Barry Allen talks about. But that was New History of the DC Universe #2. Another fun read. I don't know if I've read that much in my entire life, but I'm definitely enjoying this miniseries more than I thought I was. I didn't really think that they needed to have it initially, but now I'm kind of glad that they did because I'm enjoying reading it, and especially in this format with Barry Allen being the narrator, I've really enjoyed that because who better to narrate the history of the DC universe than Barry Allen and Mark Waid? Those are the two. If I had to choose, those are the two people I would choose. Having Barry Allen is a great character to do it, a lot more interesting than some cosmic entity. And Mark Waid is definitely the writer I would choose to do it. So hopefully you guys are reading this. With the way this issue ended, it's probably only going to be 2 more issues, I would think, before it gets caught up to current. So it's halfway done. You could probably still find these in your comic book shop. But until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night, and bye-bye.